The money is officially drying up for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as more and more news of the dissolution of Archewell Foundation comes forward. It's very, very clear that this restructuring is due to a lack of one very, very key thing, which is money. In fact, Harry and Meghan sold themselves to a dinner table at $100,000 a pop to raise money for Archewell. What this tells me is that the money for Harry and Meghan is not flowing in. Not to mention the fact they know there's not going to be a streamline in the future. This is the greatest indication I think that we've ever had that things are not going well in the land of Montecito for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And I would not be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, if their house is on the market next year or if a divorce is somewhere in the offing. So guys, we are going to get into all of this lovely business today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I do provide compelling royal commentary. So please hit that subscribe button. I would absolutely love to have you back. And obviously it's Christmas Eve. And though I'm sure many of the presents are already wrapped and ready to go, I do have and will share my Ana Lucia Royal News Network crown necklace here, guys. It is absolutely incredible and amazing. So maybe if this was not, let's say, on your Christmas list yet this year, yet you want to gift yourself later, it's still available. It'll ship in January. And these are just absolutely incredible. They're lab-created diamonds in the shape of the Royal News Network logo to celebrate 200,000 subscribers. So I would love for you guys to check it out. And feel free to click the link up above or down below if you're interested. And if you use code ROYAL20, you shall save 20% on this glorious and stunning piece. It is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And so I want everyone who wants one to have one. So guys, feel free to check these out. And there may be also some sales as well for the end of the year. So you can usually stack this deal and the sales. So that might be your chance to really make an amazing, amazing deal for these stunning necklaces. Not only does it come in gold, but silver as well. But let's go ahead and get into this sort of fascinating piece. And I was doing a little bit of a deep dive because we did do on the live stream on Friday talking about how changing the name from the Archewell Foundation to Archewell Philanthropies, this was sort of an obvious downgrade. This was an obvious downgrade due to money woes and issues. But we have even greater indications of how bad things are. And this is indicative that money is not rolling in for Harry and Meghan. I would argue that this shows that the Netflix deal has been severely rescinded. I would argue that As Ever is completely and utterly flopping and failing and not bringing in any money. And this is because Archewell Foundation was initially set up, I think, and our understanding has always been as a vehicle for Harry and Meghan to do their charity. And what I mean by that is that the couple were basically going to be the only donors into the organization. And that was going to be the case so that not only did they have a lot of control, but it would be a great way and a great vehicle for them to minimize their tax burden. Because when you make a certain amount in these sorts of things, you can get stuck with a pretty big tax burden. So the better you can sort of kind of minimize that, the better off you will be. And there's nothing wrong with this. Again, I want to re-emphasize because some people are going, oh, this is money laundering. Oh, USAID money. Again, guys, that's not how anything in charities works. To have money laundering, you would need to actually have money. And there's not money. That's a huge, huge factor here. Money is not rolling in. So you can't really launder money if there's no money coming in. Not to mention the fact that's not really how a charity works. And the whole function of this was to minimize Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's tax burden. So when they were getting some of these huge paychecks, they could actually funnel it into Archewell Foundation, and so that they could minimize the amount of money they were paying in taxes. Again, this is very, very standard, ladies and gentlemen, highly, highly standard for people. This is not some sort of big conspiracy. This is how people who make a lot of money sort of minimize it. So Hollywood celebrity types, they all do this. They either give to charities directly, they set up their own charity to give, these sorts of things, in part to sort of offset the amount of money they're making. So we all do this as well. If you give to a church, if you give to a local charity, if you donate items, you are able to take some deductions on your taxes. That's why, yes, people do it because they want to do it, not saying that. But there is an obvious benefit as well to the personal finances of whoever is donating money or actual physical items. They are, again, able to write these off on their taxes. This is not, again, anything to get really upset about. However, what's really interesting, especially if you look at the 990s, which Harry and Meghan have sort of, you could say, somewhat hidden, but the couple has seen a severe decrease in the amount of money that is in the charity. And this money is money, I think, and my understanding is that they have put into the charity. And they set up this whole foundation, again, with the idea that they set up all this with the foundation, that they were going to be Bill Gates status, Steve Jobs status, or Jeff Bezos status. They were going to make Elon Musk. They were going to be making so much money, ladies and gentlemen, that the foundation was an only way to go. But as time has gone on, and as things have sort of, let's say, evened out, we have seen, I think, a severe decrease in the revenue coming in. I mean, this is reflected in their 990s, which we'll go over. But also, changing up the strategy tells me that they don't see a path forward either where they're going to make a lot of money. The well springs are really and truly drying up, ladies and gentlemen. Meghan is not making enough money from as ever. I would almost guarantee you that. They have not gotten, let's say, any bonuses anymore from Netflix. Those coffers are drying up. They're basically running by the seat of their pants at this point. There is a level now of desperation, I think, to everything they're doing because the money is well and truly running out. And so let's go ahead and take a look at this. Now, this is just one section on the 990. Of course, it's a very important section here. And you can see the different years here, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, because they did this big announcement while changing things up. So they released the 990 to, I think, certain people. This is through Sussex.com. You can see it in the web address. And I do think, though, it's kind of scuzzy and kind of, let's say, deflectionary to give this to certain media members of the press and allow them to have access to it, while at the same time hiding your website now. Because what Harry and Meghan have done for the Archewell Foundation is they've hidden it while they're rebranding it to Archewell Philanthropies. And you can't find any information. Your website should be static. There really should be nothing about this that changes at all, really. That you need to sort of shut down your website and allow nobody to access anything is an indication, I think, of sort of scuzziness on Harry and Meghan's part. And this is a different scuzziness, obviously, than what some people have alleged, but it's a level, I think, of deception for them. But what we see here, first in 2021, is $13 million. That was the initial donation. And if you go actually up this for 2024, you'll see one flat $2 million donation. I think that donation, most of this has all come from Harry and Meghan. And you can see the success of varying years based upon how much money they're putting into this and how much money they have to give. Because I did look this up, and I think this is important to sort of kind of have a good, let's say, basis for the top 37% of the tax bracket. The tax benefit of from itemized deductions, including charity, will be capped at 35%. So I think you could argue, and again, this is just, again, conjecture. I think you could argue these numbers are about 35% of what Harry and Meghan were getting in a given year. Because, again, they need the deductions. It would be foolish not to take the deductions. And so 2021, this was when they got the Netflix deal. I'm sure the money for the book initially came in, like the advance and these sorts of things. And so they're making, let's say, buku bucks in this instance. So if we take a little bit, let's say, it wouldn't be 100 million. Maybe let's say 50 times 0.35. Let's say 40. That was a little high. It was like 17. So it would probably be, they probably got, let's say, again, this is just, guys, conjecture. This is just 100% conjecture. But I would argue they got between 35 and 40 million back in 2021. This would actually be, I would argue, sort of what they should have gotten. Harry got some sort of like $10 million advance for the book. In addition to that, the couple probably got, 30 million or so from Netflix to kind of get started and everything, like a sign-up bonus and other things. And so it made sense at the time for them to invest that money in Archewell. But 2022, we see a big, big decrease. Because that, I think, they got funneled all their initial money back there in 2021. And so they didn't have, let's say, as much money. When I did the calculation, it would be about $6 million to funnel into 2022. Or they didn't feel like at that point, maybe they gave some of their money elsewhere. That's entirely possible. And for Archewell at that point, they're like, well, we had a lower year this year. Let's just go ahead and put this in a couple places. So obviously they did launch the Netflix series in the latter stage of 2022. But in 2023 was when the book released. Harry, I'm sure, got a bonus for how well it sold. And then we also had sort of the full impact of their series because again, I think Netflix would give you a bonus based on how well something performed. You get sort of probably a flat rate fee for whatever. And then if you have something that performs really well, you get a bonus. So in 2023, they were doing good. But now we get back to down to 2024 and things are really, really flatlining. And I don't think 2025 is going to be much better. And they know that, which is why they changed their designation of the charity. They didn't change it because, oh, now we need to include Archie and Lily and it's going to be this family thing or whatever. It should have always been set up that way. But no, no, no. Not only is the money not coming in for them, they know it's not in the future. So they actually have to start relying on other people outside their organization to make money because they're not bringing it in themselves. And then that's where we get to probably the weirdest, most, in some ways, a really terrible thing Harry and Meghan have done, which is selling their souls for money. So according to this report, and it has been confirmed by Harry and Meghan, at first I thought, oh, I went to the website, I couldn't find them, but no, no, no. Harry and Meghan's team confirmed it was real. So for $100,000, you can sit next to a woman who has the emotional and I think mental maturity of a high school teenage girl and a guy who barely graduated high school with probably the mentality and the emotional intelligence and everything of a middle school boy. I cannot think of a greater waste of money than that. And they had to do this. They're starting to have to do these things. This is why we're seeing Harry take so many of these speaking engagements and everything. The money, guys, is not coming in anymore. It's not coming in because the whole point of Archewell was so that they had a place to put their money so that they could control it, still get the tax benefits from it, and get a greater control over it. So they weren't just giving it to a charity and they had this platform or whatever. And it's also an indication of the wild overspending of their tours, which was on the 990, and we'll get there. But this says Harry and Meghan have quietly auctioned access to themselves to the highest bidder as a way of raising money. It said the tickets to attend a dinner with the Sussexes go around for $100,000 a plate as they use the company charity buzz to raise funds for their charity, Archewell. If you need to do that, you failed. There are ways to raise money where you don't have to basically sell your soul, which is exactly what these two are doing. They're selling their soul for money. Up to now, the charities relied on anonymous wealthy donors, the Sussexes themselves. The Sussexes themselves are the ones who have been the wealthy anonymous donors. It has allowed their charity to continue, but there is no more money. So they have to auction themselves off to make money, which again indicates bad news for King Charles and the rest of the world in the future. Harry and Meghan will auction off more and more of themselves to make money as the coffers continue to dry up. The money is gone. Last night, a spokesman for Archewell confirmed we have partnered with numerous fundraising partners over the years, and Charity Buzz has been one of them. I don't know how true that is. A source explained that Archewell had used the company to support a fundraising dinner on World Mental Health Day. So there's their former PR person, Ashley, this poor soul of a security guard there, and these two nincompoops who somehow blew it all. They blew it all. Guys, they blew everything. They blew everything. And neither one of them are very talented. So yeah, the money's gone. The money's gone. And there's not much coming in. Paying to have dinner with them or access to a working member of the royal family is a no-no. And one of Fergie's many soulisms was to offer access to the then Prince Andrew for cash. However, the Sussexes haven't been working royals since Brexit. But again, this is a problem. They use and abuse their royal titles all the time. When you do that, people think you are associated with them, which is why they can command $100,000 a plate. Because you talk to Harry and you think, well, maybe I can get access to King Charles or something, or Prince William or Catherine. That's just not true. There's a lot of stupid people out there, a lot of stupid people with a lot of money sometimes too. And so Harry and Meghan, again, are leveraging that to get people to pay attention to them. Do you honestly think that a D-list actress from Suits and a dude who barely graduated high school and was a co-pilot and a gunner in a helicopter in the war didn't really understand combat until he was on the flight home? Do you really think people would spend $100,000 to talk to those two? No, they talked to them because of the royal connection. And that is it. Access to Harry and Meghan appears not to have been advertised on the company's website. I did verify that. I couldn't find it. The may have been offered to private high rollers who have previously paid to rub shoulders with celebrities, which again is even scuzzier. People will pay $100,000 to have dinner with them because again, they think of the royal connection. So like a Better Call Saul actor Bob here only charges $10,000. Like that to me makes sense. Or, $50,000 to attend the Grammy Awards. Like that's exciting. Harry and Meghan, these are not two wellsprings of information or thought-provoking anything. Meanwhile, sources reveal changes afoot in Archewell with the talk of staff restructuring. So yes, we've gone over this earlier. And this says in 2020, the Archewell Foundation was a hub for their philanthropic enterprises. Last year, it gave a total of $1 million to charitable causes and received $4.1 million in grants, largely from one cash injection of $3.9 million, understood to have come from Fidelity Charity, a U.S.-based fund that also donated $789,000 the previous year. The remaining income came from 5 anonymous individuals. And the anonymous individuals somewhat are Harry and Meghan. Again, this is how it would run. This is why you would create Archewell in the first place, really, is to kind of leverage your finances and maximize your tax benefits. So we see here, the previous year, they had contributions of 5.3 million, and the current year, 2.1. So they had a massive decrease there of over $2 million, closing in on $3 million. No, they had a massive decrease of 2.2 million. And part of the contributions and everything this year and part of the money spent was to, in 2024, take Harry and Meghan on useless, worthless tours of Colombia and Nigeria for no particular reason. No particular reason. And this comes on the back of course, the fall of Archewell. And what's really interesting is that apparently staff members were told, those who were departing, that they were being let go because the charity was closing. Those are in quotes. And it says currently the staff remain in place. And this goes again to prove that they're really worried about how bad this looks, is they're really trying to well, we had to let people go, but no, it's fine. It's fine. This is just addressing redundancies. No. This is because your charity is failing. This is why you're doing it. And then you're basically calling your staff members who were forced to perform charity for you. So here is a picture of some Archewell's charity people. This is Kristen, the girl who I believe was let go. It looks like her picture here, one of them. And so a couple of these person, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at least Archewell staff. She might be Archewell staff too. And they were forced to perform charity with this couple and then let go. Harry and Meghan knew when they were doing this performative charity thing, they were going to let staff go. Did they let the staff know that they were letting them go? Or did they force them to perform for them for clicks and for pictures and for validation? Again, I find that to be hugely, hugely scummy from a business perspective. But again, what does this all mean? It means that the future is looking fairly bleak for Harry and Meghan at this point. No matter what their stands say, no matter what things they've signed up for, projects and these sorts of things, there's a reason Harry's running all over the world, seemingly giving speeches on real estate. I mean, he wasn't really giving real estate advice. He was I think talking about leadership or something. There's a reason he was doing that. It's because they have no money. The money is running out. Netflix did not bite on Meghan Markle's Brownie Girl Scout documentary. They didn't bite on that. She's having to try to sell it to an industry that is collapsing. You have the fight, between Warner Brothers, Paramount, Netflix going on right now. MGM is owned by Amazon, and you have Apple. And if you're having to sell something, most likely, and you have access to Netflix, which is the biggest content streamer out there, and they put up anything, it seems like oftentimes, it was bad. It was bad. If they didn't take it, they are it's not that good. And they have now the opportunity to decline things from Harry and Meghan, which means that Harry and Meghan have to put up more of their money. And yes, Netflix is somehow offsetting some of their production costs. I don't know why they're doing that exactly. Again, well, I know why. They're just waiting for the divorce, guys. They're waiting for the divorce. They know what's coming. And with the kind of the downgrade of a foundation to a philanthropy and the kind of now selling their souls for bags of cash or whatever, it makes divorce seem all the more inevitable at this point because Meghan had this grand vision for their lives. This is why, again, Archewell Foundation was a reflection of the huge level of ego Harry and Meghan had going into the Hollywood game. They thought they would have billionaire money. We have heard Meghan wants to be a billionaire. And I've always said they're living a billionaire's lifestyle and a millionaire's salary. And this is the first, I think, really concrete example of how that's biting them in the butt. They can't keep up with the rigors and the constraints of a foundation because they don't have the cash to do so. They don't have the cash. And so they have to do something that's a little bit more flexible for them because they have no other option. And I have to ask as well, when it comes to selling a seat at their dinner table, the person sitting next to Meghan was Marcus Anderson. So did he actually donate to Archewell through this Charity Buzz thing to sit at the table with Harry and Meghan so Meghan had a buffer and he could get a tax write-off? I don't know how much money he makes, but that's just a funny idea. But this is a couple who had everything and they seemingly have squandered it. And I'm sure, again, they probably have some money in the bank. They're not, let's say, going to the paupers table yet. But it ain't looking too hot right now. And they're trying to do everything they can to try to minimize the damage. But the damage has already been done. The failure has already been revealed. And what I think, again, is sort of the greater indicator here out of everything is that not only was the money flowing down over the years, is that they must know, ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to pick up in the coming years either. They must know that things aren't going to get much better. That they hit their ceiling early and they're just kind of coasting at this point at a much lower rate than they thought they would. And they have a huge house to keep up with, a lifestyle to keep up with. The property costs a ton of money. Their security costs a ton of money, like at least $1 million a year. Now, again, this is just spitballing, but to say that, let's say, and it might be just like one of them or something, is just making $6 million a year. Well, $2 million went to charity to avoid taxes, or at least some of the taxes. You probably have $2 other $1 million a year tied up in some sort of taxes. And then you have $1 million for security. So they must be making more than 6 million, maybe 10 to 15 or something. But they're going to lose a lot of money. They're losing a lot of money. And they don't have high hopes for more coming in. This is the greatest example, I think, of the failure of As Ever. As Ever is not doing well. If Meghan was confident in the success of As Ever, they would have stuck with the foundation. If it was something where it was going to be gangbusters, they were going to stick with it. But it's not. So here we go. She's trying so hard to sell Oprah's favorite things, featured in Town and Country, Vogue, Elle, Marie Claire, Elle, In Style, Harper's Bazaar, Good Housekeeping. She slaps all these labels on it. But I don't think any of this is selling. None of it is selling. And she even had to resort to giving away orange marmalade to try to get more purchases. Now, granted, that is fairly common this time of year, but it hasn't been a wellspring of success. If you are really confident in something, I don't think we'd be seeing these changes. We're seeing these changes because confidence is dwindling. And more importantly, the money is dwindling. And that is going to cause a lot of stress and a lot of frustration because Meghan wanted to be this great success. But time has shown more and more that her and her husband are just pretty much failures in the industry, an industry that's dying, by the way. Everything is moving back to London, ironically. A lot of productions are moving to London. It's cheaper there. The unions are less strict there. So everything's moving back. Things are drying up in LA. I don't think Meghan will ever leave LA because I think she thinks that's the center of the universe. But the reality is a lot of Hollywood people are relocating from that region because, a lot of reasons. And then you have the death of Rob Reiner, a reminder of the dangers of Hollywood for children or growing up in that industry for children. Yeah, Harry and Meghan are somewhat separated, but not all that much. And we have had indications for years that Meghan spends a lot of time at the Beverly Hills Hotel, going down to LA for meetings. I don't think she probably needs to have all her meetings in LA, but she likes to. And so the probability that their kids come out unscathed from the industry is probably fairly low at this point. And if all they can do is try to get whatever cash they can, and of course, the ultimate danger here, especially for the monarchy, is that as the money dries up, as we're seeing right now, Harry and Meghan will be willing to do more and more, sell more and more access to themselves and potentially the royals. And the only reason they can sell themselves is because of who Harry is related to. Nobody's that interested in Meghan Markle, the former actress from Suits, the one-time Duchess. She would not get $100,000 a plate to sit next to her just with that designation. It's the royal one. That's the only thing making them money. And if Charles lets this continue, they'll abuse this access to the royal family or the reflection of the royal family more and more to try to make up for the catastrophic losses they are experiencing. But it is somewhat, you could say, a relief in some ways to realize that a lack of talent won't get you ahead, because sometimes it's frustrating to watch people who are so talentless get insane levels of access. Harry and Meghan have revealed themselves to be the grifters they are, and they're going to attempt to raise more money for the charity. They might be successful, but when it comes to them being able to fund it themselves, it's looking really, really bleak. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of this catastrophic failure of Archewell and Harry.